Good afternoon, my gloriously beautiful babes and babettes! How are we? I'm your resident active advocate, and as to my promise to make you a video today, I'm actually doing it. What the actual frick, right? Okay, attempting to stick to a schedule, however, I will not be here tomorrow. Mom has the day off, we're spending the day together, and okay, I want you to see this. Look at all this hair. Down here, I'm getting it cut. Finally, I have not gotten my hair cut probably since the beginning of the pandemic. I think it's been that long. So, like, over a year and a half. Yeah, fun, but that is what I'm doing tomorrow. Today, however, I would like to talk to you about the movie Pocahontas, but attempt to do so in a historical / real life context. This is going to be a long one, so strap in, and hopefully we can have some fun together, ripping this thing to shreds. It's going to be an interesting experience for me because this was, sadly, my favorite movie as a kid, and in revisiting it, I had to sing along to the songs. I did. I'm sorry. I had to. But, oh my god, oh god, the content. But we get to this now. All right, so I have a Word document that is just saturated with notes, and here it is. You can't see it, but I can. All right, so to begin, and we're going through this movie, like, you know, from start to finish. I'll try not to jump around too much, depending on what my notes do. But, okay, point number 1. I say every lyric to Virginia Company. All right, this is the opening song of the movie, and I just want to get out of the way right now the fetishizing of the New World, but at the same time contrasting the land itself and the beauties and the riches of the land that the to-be settlers, to-be colonists sing about in this song, you know, like gold and silver that you pick right off a tree, and we'll have all the adventure and all the glory in this great new undiscovered land. But then they fully recognize the existence of other human beings there, except that they call them I'm not saying that word without censoring it in some way. It's a slur and it's not cool. So, yeah, if I have to say it at all, I will be censoring that. You know what I'm saying, okay? None of you are stupid. So the contrast of the richness of the land versus what they see as the moral and intellectual poverty of the people of that land, who were not at the time considered to be people, because Indigenous people were thought not to have souls, therefore not people. I'm sorry, it's a fact of history that I have to get out of the way. It's bullshit. We know this. Moving on. Go listen to Virginia Company, by the way. It's an interesting song in terms of, as I said, the fetishization of the physical land versus the villainizing of the people. Maximize. Okay. What do I say? Okay. Okay. Hang on. Minimizing this. So, I actually... Alright. One thing that Disney did kind of badly in its Renaissance movies and post-Renaissance movies was gay coding for the villains. I made the note in quotation marks. Radcliffe is a homosexual and therefore the bad guy. All right? He's kind of painted that way. You know, he wears very bright clothes. He has his hair in little pigtails. He's rather flamboyant and over the top, and, you know, all of his showiness and his lust for money and power is all kind of packaged together into this stereotypical image of the flamboyant and boisterous and what's the word? Hedonistic. There we go. Hedonistic homosexual. You see this in other Disney movies too. You see this with Scar in The Lion King. You see this in Little Mermaid with Ursula. And the fact that it is specifically the villain who is gay coded, that is the actual term for this, it doesn't do either the movie or history any favors. I actually had this conversation with my ex's mother when he wasn't my ex, but we're at the supper table, talking about politics and colonization, and she flat out said to me, well, Radcliffe was a flaming homosexual, so what do you expect? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? That is not a good interpretation either of a villain or just of any person to, line up the idea of homosexual equals bad guy. No, don't, Disney. I'm very glad that they've gotten away from this in recent movies, more recent movies, because it, like I say, it was not doing the company any favors, especially since a lot of Disney's audience, not to mention one of their most prolific creators ever, the guy to whom, why am I blanking on his name, but the guy to whom Beauty and the Beast is dedicated, Alan something. Why can't I remember his surname? Rankin? No, it's not Rankin. Sorry. Anyway, look it up for yourself. It'll probably come to me and then I'll be like, hey, it's that. But, he was gay. And he was, as I say, among the most prolific creators at Disney. No one had a problem with him. And he died of AIDS, which is stereotypically a gay disease. That's not true either, by the way. But, yeah, that's the interpretation. Pop-ups, sorry. That's the interpretation of earlier Disney villains. We're talking like the late 80s to the 90s and almost into the 2000s because Pocahontas was made in 1998. So, yeah, very happy Disney has gotten away from that in more recent years and more recent films. Click. Okay. Okay, symbolism of rats crawling onto the ship. In the opening sequence, during the Virginia Company song, you see a shot of the ship where a rat is running up one of the ropes that ties it off to the dock, and that stuck out to me. That actually stuck out to me because it's like, why would they put that shot in specifically? Or that, it's not a shot because this is a cartoon, but you know what I mean. Why would they put those panels in specifically? We all know, probably, that rats were prolific on old-timey ships and, that they spread plague and helped to spread even the bubonic plague throughout the world, but by way of sea travel. But why focus in specifically on that? Here's my English major literary criticism side coming out. I have a feeling that it has something to do with there being something foul or bad or rotten going onto this ship in the form of the white colonizers. Just my interpretation, that might just be me, but why specifically would they show a rat scurrying up onto the ship? It stuck out to me in that way, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Or I'm babbling, one of the two. Okay. Okay, colonialism as the grand adventure. Oh my god. Okay, you see this theme throughout the entire film, right from the beginning to the end. Mostly embodied in the Adonis character of John Smith, who in real life was... Look up his picture, he did not look like that. He was a short, fat, balding, middle-aged man. That's just how he looks in his portraits. Not the golden-haired youth, that you see getting onto this ship, riding, as Lindsay Ellis pointed out, and I love Lindsay Ellis, check out her analysis of this movie, but riding onto the ship on a cannon, which Lindsay Ellis determined was basically a giant phallic symbol. And yeah, she's not wrong. So the whole idea of colonialism is this huge romantic God-given destiny for us civilized people to engage in the name of glory, in the name of riches, but in John Smith's view, at least earlier on in the movie, also in the name of the grand adventure. Not even necessarily for bringing wealth back home to England, but for the sake of the adventure itself. Which, to be fair, at the time, would have been much more difficult to facilitate than it is now, because you would have to go on like a months-long ship journey rather than just getting on a plane and flying from London, England to Virginia. You know, I don't know where specifically Jamestown is in Virginia, or even if it's still called that. Someone from America, please let me know. That would be great. Thank you. But yeah, that was among the first American colonies, as far as I understand it. I mean, 1607, you know, they hadn't been there for that long. So you know, just in their eyes, this was breaking new ground. This was exploring an entirely untouched corner or continent of the globe. Again, failing to recognize the humanity, the existence, the not claim to land, because I discussed this in yesterday's video. The Powhatan Nation did not claim land. How can you own your mother? Is the general doctrine around that, because the earth is our mother. But, you know, all the people there who originally lived on the land, they completely failed to recognize their existence and their humanity. So for them, it's like, we are the founders, we are the ones in charge of this place. It's like, no. Indigenous people have been on these continents for the past, it could be upwards of 120,000 years. That's a hot minute! Especially considering that modern humans in our current, you know, physiognomy have only existed for about 200,000 years. So for just under half that time, you know, if that theory is true, okay? I don't actually know, to be perfectly honest. But continuing. Okay. Oh yeah. Pocahontas, as I said yesterday, she was like 9 or 10, historically speaking, when this movie is set in 1607, and it's likely enough that she never met John Smith. So I'm going to move on from that point because I discussed it yesterday. All the whites have... okay, hang on. I don't even need my notes for this one. This is an interesting point. Look at the people in the movie. If you have Disney Plus, okay, go on there and watch this movie and laugh at it with me. But this is a really interesting point. All of the whites have different body types. All of the indigenous people whom they encounter don't. The males are these muscular, long, lean, again, Adonis bodies. Every single one of them to the number except one. All right, and I'll talk about him in a minute. Whereas the females, they are all portrayed with Caucasian features for the most part, except that their skin is dark, as you might expect. But, okay, Pocahontas, as I say, historically was about 9 or 10 when she met John Smith. In the movie, she's portrayed as about 16-ish, I think. Her boobs are the size of my head. Okay. So, like I say, semi-Caucasian, or at least a-ethnic, you know, not really portraying any particular ethnicity with her and with the females in her nation. But they all have these really giant chests, and I honestly see this both on the male and female side as the objectification of the other. I have talked about this kind of media before on my channel, where you will take the othered body, so the non-white body most often, and make it into an object of, you know, sexual identification and, you know, just proliferation of, you know, the physical and sensual side of things, rather than actually characterizing them as different and heterogeneous, like they do with the whites. Seriously, there's a shot of the crew all together, of the crew on the ship, and every single man on that ship has a different body type from every other man on that ship. But then you get over to the indigenous side of things before the settlers / colonists land, and they all have the same body type, and this bothers me. Except for one person. I believe his name is Kikata. He is like I almost used the word guru, wrong part of the world. He is the healer, the medicine man of this particular village in which Pocahontas is being raised. And he's an old man, and he is the only old person, really, that you see among the indigenous people portrayed in this movie. And why do we need an old guy? Well, we need him for the, oh my god, magical fire spirit magic bullshit. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, that is especially cringeworthy for me, but oh my god. Like I say, watch the movie. Don't enjoy it. Do me a favor and don't enjoy it. Because on rewatching it, I really did lose my enjoyment of it, and it became not only a thing for me to mock, but also a thing for me to tear apart mercilessly, which is what we're doing today. Hooray. Next. Okay. Oh, yeah. Native Powhatan is spoken in some of these songs. At least, like piecemeal. It's not an entire song sung in this language, okay? But there are also syllabics used at the beginning of the very first song that you sing as the ensemble cast, as the indigenous population. Steady as the Beating Drum, I believe it is called. And you get syllabics at the beginning of that song. Syllabics don't mean anything, okay? But they are a way of expressing beat and a way of expressing tone to set the mood of a song, as far as I'm aware. And like I say, they don't necessarily have to mean anything. It's kind of like us singing, oh yeah, right? That kind of thing. It doesn't mean anything, but it's still expressive of the emotion of the song, or as I say, of a way of keeping time. And that is how a lot of traditional indigenous music used to work, or even does still work now. All right, so I actually said in the note, +1 point for the movie, yay. All right, next. Look how in touch with nature we are. All right, this point I need to emphasize. Look how in touch with nature we are. Water is constantly used as a metaphor for the natural flow of the world, as one party sees it versus another, as Pocahontas sees it versus her father, and that's one metaphor, but another, not metaphor or symbol, but a literal thing that is done in this movie is calling up spirits of nature through ritual and often through fire and smoke magic. Also seen in the iridescent sparkly leaves that tend to surround people when they are doing good things or thinking good thoughts. Go through the movie and look for these things. For those of you who are not visually inclined, the presence of the leaves will often be accompanied by the sound of wind. So just so you know, that's your cue. And what exactly is happening in the movie when those leaves show up? Because the leaves actually serve to tie together several different themes and several different scenes. And as I say, whenever a character is expressing a particularly noble sentiment, the leaves will show up. Okay, so at the very beginning, you first see the leaves and the freaky-ass wind magic swirly stuff surrounding Pocahontas during her intro scene. She's standing at the top of a absolutely massive cliff. And as Lindsay Ellis pointed out as well, okay, where did these cliffs go in the past 500 years or so? Since, since this was supposedly set. Yeah, have these people ever been to coastal Virginia, is what she asks. But, Pocahontas is standing very graceful and tall and long-haired and natural at the top of this cliff, and, there's wind everywhere and the swirly leaves, and, the whole I am very in touch with the natural elements thing going on with her. And then, later on, I'm only going to point out 3 instances of this, okay? You can do your own research, thanks. But later on, when, oh my god, the swirly leaf magic allows Pocahontas to speak fluent English for the very first time upon meeting John Smith. I have a problem with this. That's not how it happened. In real life, obviously, good lord, she was forced to learn English, okay? Just dropping the kidding tone for a second, she actually was forced away from her culture. She was basically kidnapped and used as bait to try and stop a war, which didn't need to start because it was started on the pretense that the Powhatan Nation had robbed the settlers, the colonizers, of some of their possessions, which they did not do, but they used Pocahontas as collateral, but they never ended up giving her back because the Powhatans didn't steal anything from the whites, so there was nothing to give back. And that was basically their pretense for kidnapping this poor girl, okay? So she had to learn English. She converted to Christianity so that the people in her new culture over in England would recognize the fact that she had a human soul. But I don't need to get into this. If you want more information on that, seriously, I do highly recommend Biographics on Pocahontas, okay? The channel is called Biographics, and it's done by this really brilliant guy named Simon Whistler, who I got a fair bit of my information from, but not all of it. Because most of this is observational. But, okay, when she magically learns to speak English so that she can communicate with John Smith, there's this whole sentiment of understanding, of wanting to communicate between the two parties, at least in theory, going on. And then John Smith calls her and all of her people suffragists. So she pieces out, or at least attempts to, and I'm like, thank you. Yes, leave. Good. Okay, so that's instance number 2, and it doesn't really go anywhere, because their romance is as unbelievable as me being tall. I'm 5'1". Just see now. Okay. Instance number 3. Chief Powhatan is about to smash in John Smith's head. This never happened in history, by the way. Like I say, go and watch Simon Whistler's Biographics. John Smith was never captured by the natives, and he was never almost put to death by them. He made up that story in order to facilitate this whole romance motif going on between him and Indigenous women throughout the world, actually, and they were always royalty, coincidentally, or, at least the daughter of a chief, what they would consider royalty of another part of the world, okay? I think he pulled this stunt down in the Caribbean as well. So basically the narration is noble me is kidnapped by the Indigenous people, almost put to death on false pretenses, and then the beautiful princess falls madly in love with me at first sight and comes to my rescue. No, okay? Like I say, they probably never met, A. B, Pocahontas was about 9 years old at the time, and C, John Smith was 27 or 28, so make that believable if you can. Go ahead, stretch it. Alright, but yeah, the swirly leaves pull up around Chief Powhatan as well when he decides not to, in fact, execute John Smith, and, the spirit of peace and of harmony with nature and with our brothers overseas, who are coincidentally still trying to pillage our land. No. But that's the third instance of the swirly leaves that I'm going to point out. And yeah, it's all BS. Just go through the movie and see when the swirly leaves show up, and you will find the BS quite readily. Next. Okay. Wind spirit bullshit. Metaphor for free spirit. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay. I don't know whether this kind of thing happened in real life, but just in terms of the Disneyfication of this story, shall we say, I will give it one legitimate point for its portrayal of friendship between Pocahontas and her friend Nicoma. All right? Nicoma, I don't know whether she existed in reality, but Nicoma is the voice of reason in this relationship, okay? Pocahontas, Little Miss, portrayed as wild, free, and, without boundaries, and universally loving, and, all this stuff. But Nicoma is the one who says, did you ever stop to think that these people might be dangerous? The ones who are exploding our land and digging up our earth and stealing our resources and so on and so forth, and have killed a few of our warriors up to this point. And, I honestly do give this movie, at least for Nicoma, one legitimate point, because she's trying to save her best friend's life, A, and B, at least consequently, is attempting to avoid a war between the two sides. If Pocahontas would stop mucking around between the two sides and, not run off in search of the pretty face who she came to magically understand his language in the course of exactly 2.5 seconds. Just, oh my god, it's so unbelievably bad, the romance that they portray between these two. It's ugh. Okay, like I say, go and read the actual history. But Nicoma, I love her as the voice of reason here. It's like, okay, he came with them. He's got a gun. We know that he's a pretty good marksman, otherwise he wouldn't be a captain. All right? So maybe you want to stay, by the way, with your people to whom you should actually be loyal. That's one legitimate point. I'm going to skip to the ending for 2 seconds. Pocahontas says at the end of the movie to John Smith, I'm needed here. And that actually is historically accurate. Like, she stayed in Virginia. No, I'm sorry, it's not. No, because she was oh, goddamn. No, it's not historically accurate because she was kidnapped by the whites and brought over to England and consistently craped by them, okay, take off the sea, when she was being held prisoner. Yeah, so that, by the way, resulted in the birth of an illegitimate child. And John Rolfe, we'll talk about him, but not today, but we will talk about him, claimed ownership of the child who was probably not, in fact, his. So, yeah, that was a very bad situation. Okay, this woman did not have a happy life. Like I say, go and watch the biographics on Pocahontas because he gives a lot of good information about this. Like I say, this is more of an opinion piece on my part, but that's what I'm good at. Okay. Yeah, just the whole idea of loyalty to your own side. Nowadays, and a little bit before nowadays, we put people in prison or we would kill people if they switched sides in a war. And that's basically what's happening here, except that in real life, Pocahontas was smarter about it than she is in the movie. She doesn't automatically fall in love with the first white male she ever sees. Duh. And in real life, she was known as the diplomat who crossed sides, back and forth between England and Virginia in order to try and make peace between the two peoples. It just never happened within her lifetime, and even currently. So, yeah, she was trying to do a good thing, but unfortunately you can't say mission accomplished because colonial spirit and, the whole settler mindset and this is our land, that still exists. And we need to get rid of that. Thank you, because share the land. Remember my visual aid yesterday? The entire Clementine does not belong to you. Sorry! Moving on. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, we get it. Water is the metaphor. I already talked about that though. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to research this point, but in some Indigenous cultures, I'm not going to say all because I don't know whether this is universal. As I say, this is going to be a point of research for me, and I think we're going to wrap this up today with this. Throughout the movie, Pocahontas makes continual reference to a very alarmingly specific and conveniently specific dream that she has about a spinning arrow pointing her down her proper path. Okay, what I would like to research is whether the Powhatan Nation either engaged or engages in what's called the Spirit Quest. I don't know how many of you in the audience have heard about this, but as far as I understand it, Indigenous youths will go out into the wilderness alone, or maybe accompanied by someone else, but traditionally I believe it was alone, and they would do so to fast and to commune with Creator, capital C Creator, and would often result in having dreams about, what you wanted your future to be. I really need to research this point because, like I say, I don't know whether the Powhatans ever engage in this practice, but also, like, does Disney mean here to portray a kind of spirit quest because Pocahontas is continually led down her path by the existence of this dream and the correspondence of the spinning arrow in her dream with the spinning arrow, rather, not the spinning compass, it's on a compass, but the spinning arrow in her dream as relates to John Smith's compass. All right, she gets this compass off of him and notices, hey, it has a spinning arrow on it, just like in my dream. He must be the one for me. Both historically and in the movie, no. Thank you. There wasn't really a one for Pocahontas in history, except, in the movie The Guy Coquam, she actually did marry him in real life, and they had a child together, and I guess that their marriage was considered null and void after the fact, because, like I say, she was kidnapped and forced to marry John Rolfe later on. But, yeah, were they aware of the fact that she was already married? Were they aware of the fact that she was a mother? I do believe they were aware of the fact that she was a mother, but maybe they didn't consider her marriage valid, because she had by this point converted to Christianity under duress. So, oh yeah, that was another thing. A Christian could not marry at this time a non-Christian Indigenous person, so that's why she was forced to convert. But also, it could have gone the other way around. If she were made to convert to Christianity, would her marriage to Coquam be considered valid? Probably not. That and the fact that we don't exactly have the best history of honoring other cultures' traditions. Do we? Residential schools. By the way, for anyone who wants to be even more infuriated by what's going on right now, go and look up what Canada just did with our records of what happened in the residential schools. They were sent from Ottawa to the Vatican. Good luck getting those back. Yeah, so I am resoundingly not proud of my government today, or, well, ever, but specifically today. That was just, like, cowardice at its finest. And, yeah, like I say, good luck getting those back. You're never going to get those records back. But the thing is, the people themselves, they don't need the records. They know what happened. And, if people like myself can continue to speak about these issues and bring light to them, we don't need records, Like, what happened, happened, whether it was written down or not. Much more convenient to have the records, especially in the sense of forcing the Catholic Church into an apology, which they will never give, because they're the Catholic Church. But yeah, look into the whole incident of the records being sent by Ottawa to the Vatican, because Justin, you suck. Justin, you suck. And I repeat for a third time, Justin, you suck. And so does the Vatican for accepting them. So, yeah. That's the end of the video. And I think if I've got more, I'll give it to you tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, I'm sorry, I'm off tomorrow, because Mom's home, but the next day. And the next time you see me, all of this will be on, which is wonderful because I have to go and wash all of this right now. And that's a process. Trust me, that's a process. All right, so I'll see y'all lovely people on Thursday. Go watch Pocahontas and tell me down below whether you enjoy it or not. And I'll see y'all later. Bye. Mwah.